obviously everyone knows who you are, John Belham-Payne. So, who are you and what do you represent, say, in the wider world of the field of modern paganism?
All right. Well, my rank is I'm a high priest, and I'm head of the. No, I don't like the word head. I'm a trustee of the Doreen Valiente Foundation. I'm founder of the Centre For Pagan Studies.
Okay.
The Centre For Pagan Studies was the first one that came around for me. I was a long-term member of the Pagan Federation, but in 1995 I kind of just got a little bit fed up of all the people that were advertising bogus courses and there's some awful things going on, and I just felt people were being ripped off. And I come from a very traditional. My tradition, my place in the craft is one of a very traditional one. I've been initiated for 41 years, and it took me 4 years to become initiated prior to that. And I'm only 36. But it just seemed to me that in 1995 things were going downhill. The craft was becoming something that was now
Commercial?
popular, not commercial in that respect, but people were taking commercial opportunities out of it.
Okay.
There were bogus people running courses, and for me the craft is, there's only one way you can learn about witchcraft, and that is from one person to another. You can't learn about it on the internet. You can't read it in a book. It can only be passed on from one person to another. And there was too much of it going on, so I decided I was going to have to do something about it. We had a large house in Sussex, and we had a barn. So I decided that what we would do, along with a couple of other friends and my wife Julie, was we'd convert the barn into something which we could use, and for other people to use. Come along and have a safe working space. We had a lot of ground so that people could use that without being overlooked, or just a safe space. And at the same time, we could help them develop. Now, I've never, ever, in all the time that we've run the Centre For Pagan Studies, we've never taught witchcraft. We talk about the history of it, we talk about all the fringe things, but we never teach witchcraft. I'm very traditional about how we do that thing. And that became quite successful for a while. Well, still is. I mean, our membership grows daily. We've now got several thousand people that follow us, which is flattering and very nice. But in not a couple of years after we'd opened, we had this. I was giving a talk on the history of witchcraft, which is what we normally did, and suddenly found out that there was a lady sitting in the audience called Doreen Valiente. And Doreen was known as the mother of modern witchcraft. I'd read all of her books, was an absolute total fan, and there I am talking about witchcraft to a woman that knew far more than I ever will. I guess it must be like a country vicar talking in front of the Pope, and she was very sweet. She didn't say anything. And at the end of my talk, I avoided her.
Was this the first time you'd met her?
Yeah, absolutely. She came to one of our events, and at the end she came up and she had this wonderful West Country accent, and she said, "Oh, Sean, I've been hearing about this Centre For Pagan Studies." She says, "No, I quite like what you do." She says, I think you're doing all right." So I said, "Oh, how was my talk?" And she said, "I thought it was very good." But, and then there was the buts, and I missed lots of things out when she pointed. And at the end of the evening, as she left, she suddenly came back up to me and she said, would you mind if I had your telephone number? Which of course I said, no, I didn't ask for hers, didn't want to be that presumptuous. And a few days later she phoned and she said, and this is a marvellous lesson, and she said, John, you know this Centre For Pagan Studies, she says, would you mind if I got more involved? That was a bit of a shock, and I said, well, how do you mean more involved? And stupid, I said, what do you think you could do? And I think she was knocked off her feet as well at that, but she said, well, I'm not too good on my pins, she said, but if you sit me down I can wash up. And it was a big lesson. It doesn't matter how big you are, it's the work that you do,
Yes.
and not who you are.